Transmission. Yes, good morning. Today we are talking about shocks and struts.
You got it.
And Brian Bowersock is here to explain to me and hopefully anyone else who doesn't know what that is. What does that mean?
Okay, we're talking about shocks and struts this morning, and there's a couple functions that are very important on a car that have to do with shocks and struts. Number one thing that you would probably notice the most in driving the vehicle is your ride. As far as the car makes this smooth when you go over potholes or bumps or things like that. Makes the car so that it doesn't continue to bounce and feel kind of like a boat floating down the road.
And this doesn't have anything to do with the car's alignment?
Well, it doesn't really have anything to do with alignment as long as all the bushings are fine and everything with the shocks and struts. There's a lot of integral parts that go with the suspension and steering and alignment and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it is part of that system. When struts are replaced, you do have to realign a car without question. But mainly what we're talking about is one of the big safety things that have to do with worn out shocks and struts is stability and safety of the vehicle, because what shocks and struts do is they keep the tires flat on the ground so the driver keeps really good control of the vehicle. So in adverse weather conditions or even on dry pavement, if you get a vehicle that the tires are bouncing off the ground all the time, it's harder to control the vehicle.
How can you tell if it's your shocks and struts that's the problem?
Well, you should have them checked regularly. When the vehicle's in for service, whoever's servicing your vehicle should be checking the shocks and struts. It's easy to check. We do a bounce test on them, and then we also check to make sure they're not leaking, such as they will leak out of the seals on the shocks or struts.
Let's see what we have here.
These are brand new struts, but basically there are two different kinds of struts. There's a cartridge style and a style that holds a spring, and then we actually have shocks, which are an older style or used on most like pickup trucks, things like that.
Okay, and here you have somewhat of a demo if you want to.
Yeah, this is a little bit of demo by Monroe. One is a bad shock that you can see there's no pushback on it. So the job of a shock is really to, when there's a bounce, it puts the wheel right back to where it should be.
Okay.
So basically
and on the other side
that one's hard to push, and you'd see it goes
right
back to where it is. Exactly. So just quick, you can get excessive tire wear from bad shocks and struts, excessive suspension component wear, which can wear things out over time.
Okay.
So that's why it's very important to keep an eye on them. You know, you can save yourself a lot of money in the long run.
How often do they need to be replaced?
Most shocks and struts will make it anywhere from 80 to 100,000 miles. So they go quite a distance.
Pretty far, yeah.
Correct. You know, unless there's something that hits one and causes damage to it or something like that, then obviously that's a strange situation. But for the most part, they will last 80 to 100,000 miles.
Okay, and if there's something wrong with the shocks and struts, does it damage other parts of the vehicle?
Well, it can. Like I said, tire wear's a big thing. That's the first thing you start to notice when there's a damaged shock or strut. But other suspension components, yes, can wear out over time if it's not addressed.
Is it a costly repair?
Now, that's a good question because it really depends. Starting with shocks, not too bad in cost. Some cars, newer cars with struts, can be very expensive. To replace the front alone can be over $1,000.
Okay, and I know in the notes here you said when you go to get a oil change, to just kind of ask them to replace or at least look at your shocks.
Correct. Whoever's servicing your vehicle should be looking at those for you. It's an easy, simple thing. Just visual inspection, make sure there's no leaks or dents to them or damage, and check the bushings and all that, and then just a bounce test.
All right, Brian Bowersock from West Escondido Auto, thank you so much.
Glad to be
Get your
here.
shocks and struts checked next time you take your car in, and we'll be right back after this break.